you hear about guerrilla marketing. It's a very popular, maybe almost a throwaway phase these days, but everybody says you got to do guerrilla marketing. Now, I understand you didn't have a multi-million dollar advertising budget. Yeah, you never did, but you were able to get just tremendous publicity and press for PeaTos. And of course, this story wouldn't be complete without you telling us from your perspective, the whole front of the Wall Street Journal story. A lot of the audience may not be aware of this, but I think it would love to hear your thoughts on how you were able to leverage social media, call it guerrilla marketing if you want, and get the word out. Because here you got this great idea, PeaTos. It's a nutrient dense version of Cheetos, so it looks familiar, but your brain will be happy too because it's saying, "Oh, this is good. It's got some protein." But if you don't know about it, it doesn't matter, right? So
Exactly.
you do have to build awareness. I think we all understand that, and I think you've really been brilliant at building awareness from a very scrappy level. So just like to hear your thoughts on that, and also give us a little bit behind the scenes of the whole Wall Street story, which got you tremendous publicity.
Yeah, so that's interesting you say that. I started my career. Remember we talked about you said it's appropriate to bring up Hollywood because we're based in LA. It actually goes a step beyond that. I started my career in the entertainment business.
Oh, okay.
I was a lawyer for the MGM studios. That was my first job out of law school. But my after that, I actually was representing writers and directors for a little while. So I was representing storytellers, and that I actually look at as one of the best experiences that I ever picked up, because I've always realized along the way in investment banking, this is what helped me a ton, is that everyone has the numbers, right? The numbers are the same, and if everything in life is based on numbers, you're going to come to the same answer because math is math. 4 + 3 always equals 7, but the story is what makes two people different, and that's ultimately when we value things differently that have the same numbers. It's because of that other element. Why is it that Tesla today is worth more than the combined value of all the other traditional car companies combined, even though their sales are much lower? Their numbers are far worse.
Sure.
Why is it that some of these companies get out there and get these massive valuations on Wall Street? It's because they have that story element, right? And so I think storytelling is such an important part of any kind of brand building and any kind of guerrilla marketing tactics. And you must have something that's interesting. And I always like to say that a good story, if you look at all the major Hollywood blockbusters, the one common theme you'll find is that they obviously all had a great hero, and we're all big, we all love to kind of root after the hero, right? But what makes a hero relevant is the villain. If you don't have a strong villain, you don't have a reason to have the hero exist. And if you look at all like Star Wars and all these super successful hit blockbusters, they had the very powerful villain. Remember Darth Vader? Like, this is a villain you love to hate,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And so we have, for us, it was like, and we kind of enjoy villainizing them a little bit, and they deserve it because they've created such a monopoly for themselves. But we had Frito-Lay. We had this beautiful villain, who basically is like the big bad wolf of the snacking industry. They've controlled the snack market to the detriment of us little guys. So it was a perfect villain to go after, and we did. And so using them as
I think it was more David and Goliath than Star Wars, but go on.
yeah, exactly. It definitely was. So anyway, so that's kind of like how I think that for us at least, we've gotten a lot of publicity and kind of interest, is because we're taking on that 8,000-pound gorilla so directly. And I think and then of course they actually helped us out a little bit, probably unknowingly, when they came after us on the trademark matter, which is what led to the Wall Street story. Because early on we were almost jokingly using this tagline, and it was called, when we first launched the product, they obviously, Cheetos has this great mascot that's very well known, Chester, right?
Mhm.
And it's a cheetah. And so we then said to ourselves, wait a minute, if they have a cheetah, we need something even more powerful, So we said our mascot's going to be a tiger, a tiger and then one of our young marketing executives one day, and again, we did a lot of this stuff was not like, it wasn't like we spent, $500,000 in some marketing study to figure this out. I mean, this was just like all of us kind of, shooting the,
Sounds like some spitballing.
yeah, spitballing while we're trying to figure out how to make this great product. And so one of my young marketing cohorts figured out that tigers in the wild have a lifespan of 17 years, while cheetahs in the wild only have a lifespan of 12 years. So we figured out that tigers actually live longer than cheetahs, and we used this as our early slogan. We said tigers live longer than cheetahs, and we had a picture of a tiger on our pack. And then that wasn't even what caused it. Then we went out and went to the USPTO, the trademark office, and tried to trademark that term. And that's when Frito-Lay got a little peeved, and they basically sent us a letter that said, they contest this trademark. And so it wasn't even that they were really trying to sue the company, but they were trying to, basically block our trademark.
Right.
And then they sent us a cease and desist, which is common practice in the
Sure.
industry. But then, instead of backing
I got to believe being a lawyer was a big advantage because you kind of knew the game.
it was a huge lawyer. And remember when I started my career in MGM, I was a trademark lawyer, so that definitely helped. But that definitely ruffled some feathers. My board was concerned, investors were concerned, obviously, right? I mean, you have this big, massive giant who can tie you up in litigation for years. But in a way, these kind of things sometimes nowadays backfire on the big company, because it no longer is it that they can use their kind of legal clout, because there's what's happened now is that there's the news and the access to information occurs at a lightning speed, and so we all have. I always say, like, these brands, when I talk to them, are always like, oh, I wish I could get into Kroger, I wish I could get into Walmart, I wish I could get into Publix, right? These retailers, right, that control the distribution. But I always say, guys, you feel like the retailer is your boss, right, so to speak. But guess who the retailer's boss is? The retailer's boss is the consumer.
Absolutely. They ask for it, the retailer will provide it. Yes.
Exactly. Frito-Lay's boss is the consumer also. We all are very scared of the consumer. And look at what's happening right now, like in the world, because of social media and Facebook and all these things. Look at how companies that would never even make a political statement are getting involved in making statements, political statements, because they realize that if they don't, the consumer is going to get upset.
The court of public opinion will try them.
Exactly. And I'm not saying, by the way, that that's right or good or bad. I'm not going to comment on that.
But it's reality. Yeah.
I'm just saying it's reality. Exactly. It's just reality. And so there's been many stories. In fact, the Just Mayo story was one that we were intrigued by, where remember, Unilever tried to sue Just Mayo, and ultimately had to back off, not because they were wrong legally, but because the consumer got very upset.
Yeah.
I think
I get all that, but I want to hear how you got to the front page of the Wall Street Journal.
You have to be a bit of a ham, a self-promoter, in order to succeed in a young brand. So we obviously had a great story, and then we just went out and started knocking on doors, to just like I did early on with the networking, and we called up every big reporter at every one of these major news outlets. At the end of the day, these reporters are looking for juicy tidbits, right? And here was a big company trying to squash the little guy who's trying to come after one of the most well-known brands in the country. And so it became, it got on the front page of the Wall Street Journal.